After a bit of a weird launch, Battlefield 5 is now playable to everybody, whether you're playing on console or PC, whether you bought the Early Enlister Edition, the Origin Premier Edition, or the normal edition, you'll be able to play the game right away. Now, there's some things that have changed in Battlefield 5, and in this video I'm going to go over a few tips and tricks that will help you integrate those things into your gameplay. I'll also give you some very useful information that will definitely help you increase your KD, increase your score per minute, and just help you be a better asset to your team. If you have anything interesting that you want to include, make sure you put it down in the comments. I will like and upvote, and possibly pin a comment that has useful bits of information in it. First off, an obvious one, but one that I see missed all the time. It's for the squad leaders and those people that are looking to play squad leader. You have to make sure that you're marking objectives, and don't just mark any objective. Try to consider where the enemy team is going to be and where the most effective place for you is going to be. Remember, in Battlefield 5 at the minute there is a slightly different ticket system on Conquest, which means if you're trying to cap a flag and your team is losing quite considerably, the flag will be capped really quickly. The enemy team will also find it more difficult to cap flags if they're winning. This means that as a squad leader you can direct your squad to back cap a load of flags if you're losing, and pretty much single-handedly turn the game around as a squad and not have to rely on the rest of your team. You also need to make sure that you use your perks. Don't always save up for a V1 and a JB2 rocket. As fun as they are, they're not always the most important thing to be using. I would suggest using the resupply drop, dropping that on objectives that you're trying to cap, maybe on positions that you're trying to fortify, is very important. Just be careful you don't stand in the way of it, because that thing will squish you. You can also use it to squish enemies, but I haven't managed to do that yet. But it's very important to make sure you drop these things, because ammo is of course an issue on this game if you're trying to defend a position and you don't have a resupply station. Building on that, always remember that DICE have designed parts of the map to be fortified. You can't just expect for these fortifications to stay there once you've placed them, and often parts of the map will require fortifying in order for you to be able to defend it. This is something a lot of people don't realise. You can fortify as any class. It's important to do it at the start of matches, and you can also fortify when you're trying to revive somebody. If they've died just outside of cover, you can fortify in front of them from your bit of cover whilst you're in safety, and then run out, revive them and run back. It's quite a nice tactic. I've seen it used a few times, and fortifications definitely save your skin more times than I'd like to say. One thing I would say though is once you lose the position, those fortifications become the property of the enemy, and that's almost free fortifications for them. They don't have to build them, and then you have to go back and destroy them. So don't just build them for the sake of building them. Make sure you're building them when you really need them. Make use of the environment around you. This has always been the case in Battlefield games, Battlefield 5 more so than ever. The destructibility is fantastic in this game, and you can really make use of the assault class especially, but the other classes too. The assault class is great with the dynamite and the Panzerfaust, but maybe you're using the Piat launcher and the grenade launcher instead. There's lots of different tactics you can employ here, but one thing I would say is if you're in a building and there's a enemy on the flag, you can blast out half of the wall of the upstairs portion of the building, giving you a great overview from this position of strength. You can also blast your way through buildings and deny camping spots to snipers just by destroying them anyway. As we all know, tanks in Battlefield 5 are not exactly the strongest thing in the world. If you're camping on a hill and you're shooting things at range, they are incredibly effective, and I think that's a bit ridiculous because I don't like that playstyle in tanks. However, when you're close up in a tank to a flag full of people, it's very difficult to be effective because one, you get disabled really easily. The damage output from the Panzerfaust is ridiculous. You can do 70 damage with certain shots. And also the turrets are very slow, and because of the lag on them, they're not as accurate as you'd like them to be because they don't line up with your mouse sensitivity. That being said, there can still be issues as an infantry player trying to take a tank down. Always attack from a position of strength. Height is usually the best thing you can do, and attacking from behind is also really good. As I mentioned, the turret speed is usually quite slow. Shoot the gunner out first before you push because that's one less thing you have to worry about, and also consider laying a trap. I usually aim for a Panzerfaust to the tracks or the turret, and then maybe if that can't be achieved, I'll throw a bit of dynamite just to slow the tank down, and team up with a squad mate to take him down in one swift blow. It's the same in any Battlefield game, but I see people in BF5 running directly at tanks, trying to take them on. It's not the smartest thing you can do. Try and disable part of the tank first and take out that top gunner, because they're really easy to shoot off. They have very little protection, and that will probably save you because he's the one who can turn very quickly from that position. On the other hand, when you're taking a vehicle and you're looking to be in a plane or in a tank for your team, make sure you work out what vehicle will be the most effective for your team, and don't just jump into the first thing that you see or the one that you fancy playing. Of course you can do, but if you're looking to be the most effective soldier possible for your team, you need to take the most effective vehicle that will complement what your team is trying to achieve. Right now you'll see most people running with the heavy bombers, as they are capable of flattening tons of people, and they are pretty overpowered and will certainly be nerfed, especially the bombs on them will be nerfed. But some of the other planes are also handy once upgraded. Say you're playing on Fiel and there are loads of bombers on the enemy team, I would consider taking a fighter and going to destroy some of those bombers and help your team out. Yes, maybe you'll only get 5 or 6 kills by doing this, and you could achieve that in one bombing run, but it's a good idea just to help your team out in the long run, and they'll thank you for it. As a medic, make sure you use smoke. I would suggest taking the smoke grenade and the smoke launcher. This is really useful for your team. Not only can you smoke people that need reviving, but you can also smoke to other objectives and run across open ground. Very useful indeed. Incendiary grenades are also really good for aerial denial. I would suggest taking those when they are possible to take in your class. You can down somebody or shoot them so they're lying on the ground waiting to be picked up, and then you can also throw an incendiary grenade on them to prevent them being picked up because they'll die more quickly. Or you can also use incendiary grenades for aerial denial. So that means you can block doorways, force enemies out from behind cover, set off explosives, prevent enemies from getting to certain positions because there's fire in the way. Maybe it's not the most effective thing for getting instant kills as a normal frag grenade might be, but trust me, the incendiary grenades are really good. Not quite as good as they were in Battlefield 1, but still very effective. Enemies can also not throw them back because they detonate on impact as far as I'm aware, which is a useful feature. It sounds simple, but always try to keep a good position. Now this is one of the most simple tips that you will get in this video, and it can be applied to any Battlefield game, but trust me, it'll save you so many deaths in this game. If you have a nice position with a decent bit of cover, you should probably wait for the enemies to come to you instead of running out looking for them. Of course, I'm not suggesting that you camp and just wait for enemies non-stop all game from a position with a sniper rifle or maybe an M1A1 with a 3x scope on it. But try and be a bit more tactical. The amount of people I see run to a position, say for example Charlie on Rotterdam, they have a great position on top of the little balcony. Your team's capping the flag, they can really do a lot of damage on the enemies and keep them away, but instead they'll jump down and they'll run straight to Charlie and die. Or maybe they're in a position where they're defending a flag and they've got a great position shooting enemies, but they'll run out to try and chase the enemies and find them and get really kill hungry and get taken out. And there's no point in doing that, because once you've run out from your piece of cover and you die, you probably can't be revived because you're now out in the open, and also the enemies will then take that stronghold that you had and then they'll do the same thing that you should have been doing to them. So what I'm trying to say is always keep hold of that strong position. If you're moving on, move as a team, move as a unit, and that way it is better for everybody. Maybe you are one of those lone wolf players that can go on these flanks and take players out, and by all means, that's awesome if you can do it. But for most players, I'd say, myself included, making use of strong positions is really important, and it definitely helps me in every game I play. Whilst capping objectives, make sure you use the visual at the top of the screen. We had the same one in Battlefield 1. It will tell you if enemies are on the flag or not, and you can usually work out how many enemies are there by the ratio that it shows. I'd suggest making sure that you check the outskirts of flags as well. I've noticed this a lot in Battlefield 5. People will cap flags and they'll work out that they're showing on that little visual, so they'll step off the flag. You'll think that the flag's empty, you'll all run off, and then they jump back on the flag and start capping it, usually pretty quickly because it happens towards the end of the game a lot. So as I said, make sure you make use of that visual. If there's no one on the flag but you think there might be, a quick sweep around the outskirts of the flag perimeter and you can be on your way. Footsteps don't work very well in Battlefield 5 as of now, and neither do vehicle engine sounds. You can often be standing right next to someone or a tank and not realise they are there, and with 3D spotting being far less effective, it has never been more important to keep a good idea of your surroundings. Survey the environment, check the coast is clear and move with your squad. It's often useful to tell your squad if there's something going on. Use the VoIP or maybe use Discord. That way you've almost got 3 other sets of eyes, and things are a lot easier if you're playing that way. Playing on your own in BF5 isn't as fun as it was in other battlefields. Possibly a good thing, possibly not a good thing. It depends who you are and whether you play with a squad or not, but I would suggest running with a squad has never been more effective. Something that I've noticed people aren't doing that much. Make sure you upgrade your weapons through the specialization menu. You really want to make sure that you have the most effective tools for your playstyle. I would say that the medic weapons in Battlefield 5 are really quite limited, very good at close range, but not that good at the longer range, but you can also upgrade them to be more effective at that longer range if you want to. They're never going to be as good as the support or the assault weapons, but they can be pretty good. Not the best, but something that you can definitely use. And remember, you're always going to be appreciated as a medic on the battlefield. Make use of the specializations, make sure you've got a weapon that suits your playstyle, and experiment with different things as well. It's early on in the game's life, no one's really too sure what the best thing is. An obvious one, but always make sure you restock at resupply stations when you have the chance. You can restock more ammo than what you begin with in a game. Especially as an assault player, you can gain access to an extra Panzerfaust, which is great for taking down tanks, planes, and fortifications. A quick one, but don't follow the ZERG. You'll have noticed in Battlefield 5 there are often situations where the entire team runs around in a giant pack, like we had in Battlefield 1. It was really bad in BF1. It's not quite so bad in BF5, but it isn't ideal. You can often run around on your own, slightly away from the ZERG, and cap flags, maybe before your team gets to them, or slightly after your team gets to them, or go to different objectives altogether. Get yourself a different angle. You've got to imagine on the enemy team, what are they going to be doing? Probably running around in a giant ZERG as well, and you don't want to be facing them head on. It's not really very productive for you and your score, so flanking to the side is often a good idea, and the way to know where to flank is just don't follow the ZERG, just go somewhere slightly different. The final tip for this video, make sure you set up your assignments before playing and consider what assignments you're going to be playing on this mode. You don't want to be logging out to set new assignments and logging back in. Hopefully DICE will fix this soon. They might have even fixed it by the time this video comes out. We should be able to change assignments during the game and not have to log out of the match we're playing in order to adjust them and get new assignments. If you have anything extra you want to add, make sure you leave it down below. That's pretty much it from me. They're all the tips and tricks I can think of off the top of my head. Probably there'll be loads more, and I'll be bringing another video soon with those. Thanks for watching, guys. If you did enjoy, leave a like down below, and I'll catch you in the next video.